Hey guys, Gian here, and before we get today's episode started, I just want to let you know we recorded this on August 13. Didn't get it up for some technical issues, but it's up today. And, we might be a little behind on the world's news, but hadn't talked to each other in a while, hadn't recorded a podcast in a while, so it was just good to reconnect and catch up with what was going on in the world. So we're going to call this the State of the Pod Address, and we hope you enjoy. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, ring the bell if you already are. And we'll see you on the other side. Hey guys, you're watching Daniel and Gian talk shit, and yes, we are not dead. We are still alive. I know Daniel's been a little bit more active on the YouTube channel in the comment section than
hardly, but
to a certain extent. But we're back. We're doing a remote podcast here. Although I will have to say, this week I have seen Daniel in person twice. For the first time, like for more than 5 seconds, and since March.
3 months.
March. Yeah, so it was good to see him in person. Good to hang out a little bit. We're working on some stuff for financial reasons right now, but
we're on the corner.
Around the corner. But I want
around the corner. We've been on the corner.
We've been on the corner. Hooking.
We've been working the corner.
We got that. We're doing them Rona hand jobs with a glove and a mask on. And a face shield.
It works out pretty good. You just got to take the gloves off when you're done. Throw it to the side.
Get a new pair
next,
every single time.
On the next. Yep.
Every single time. Face shield for splatter, guys. Face shield for splatter. But just what have we been up to, man? What have you been up to, Daniel? Really?
Surviving. I don't know. Nothing. Still.
I
not
guess
really
you know
working.
what? I've been thinking about this. What's a better question to put out there is?
Yeah, that's
how do you how has your life how's your life changed because of the shutdown? Like, do you feel like it's made a major impact on you in one way or another? Because I've noticed other people on social media like kind of losing their shit because they're locked in, and if they get a chance to break the rules, they break the rules and whatnot. And I'm thinking to myself like, fucking thank God I got married and I have a child, because like I haven't had a social life in years, and I'm fine.
You're not missing anything.
I'm not missing much. I'm not. We used to eat out a little more regularly, but
home cooked meals never killed anybody.
Nope, they have not.
As a matter of fact, they keep people healthy for the most part.
A little bit. Yeah, I've been drinking more. I will say I've been my alcohol consumption has gone up at least 50% because.
Well, that's good. You might be able to go to a tailgate whenever college football comes back and actually not pass out after.
It's still hang. And we'll get to college football later, but
you can't drink it.
What about you, man? Like, what do you think has?
I don't know.
Has this affected you psychologically at all?
It's a loaded question, because a lot of the effects that I feel have been happening are more in the film industry, and not because I haven't been working, but just. Even if, let's just say, things magically went back to normal in like 3 months, let's just say everything fixed itself, blah, 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 and by the end of 2020, movie theaters are open and everything's great, and business is going, the industry is still changed in these 3 months where the damage is potentially it's greater than that. It's the stuff that we talked about at first, about Disney Plus launching whatever movie it was at the time, or the Pixar movie.
Right, Onward.
Yeah, and then Trolls, and then all the effects of that, which at the time was like it was the one step towards that, but it wasn't that big of a deal yet. And then AMC kind of was like going down the shitter because of their bankruptcy, right? And it forced them to do moves that they would never have thought of doing by signing that exclusive 17-day window with Universal, where after 17 days Universal can put their movies on video on demand, whereas before it was 2 months.
Right.
And they're the only, and they broke, and this is after they said we're not playing any Universal movies. Remember they said that, like they were like trying to be all uppity about it, as they should
strong arm them, yeah.
And now then they got pushed into this, and then now Disney's, Mulan is releasing, or Tenet as well, releasing international first, maybe not even see a U.S. distribution. Who knows? Genuinely, who knows? Tenet will because it's in the contract, but Mulan's not. So that's $30 for a rental at Disney Plus right now, plus subscription. Which I know it sounds like I'm complaining, but it's not, because it all culminated in what just happened the other day, literally like 2 or 3 days ago. And this case because I've brought it up millions of times. We learned it in film school. What really broke up the monopolization of the studios over movie theaters in like the 50s. Because for those who don't know, if you wanted to go watch a Paramount movie in 1950, you had to go to a Paramount theater. If you wanted to watch a RKO film or whatever companies were available at that time, you had to go to their theater. So like if you were Joe Schmo independent theater, AMC, you won't get it. You won't get any movies, because why would a movie company license their movies to show at your theater when they want it at their house? Like Netflix, Netflix right now, you can only see Stranger Things on Netflix. Maybe you could buy the DVD, maybe, but I don't see DVDs very often. But I'm sure they're there. But you can't go to Hulu and watch it. But so
it's a complete control of the revenue stream.
And then the government, exactly. The government came in, stepped in, broke it up, and allowed distribution to exist the way it exists now. A judge just decided that Paramount, that's why I use them specifically, is allowed to buy theaters now. Like they reversed that decision.
It's like we're going backwards
because of COVID, and because some theaters may not be able to afford it anymore. They're allowing Paramount to come in and take over, and it's like, it's those cracks, those small cracks that ultimately lead to the sinking of the Titanic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Titanic didn't hit the iceberg and just sink right away. It took, those cracks started to open up and just let everything. What does that have to do with me? Well, that's what I care about, theatrical.
Well, I mean, I know.
I miss the movies most of all. That's what's changed my life the most.
And anybody that knows you knows how much time you spend at the movie theater. So that was your one major, like,
this whole time
outside of the house social thing this entire time. Since I've known you, that's been number one. So I definitely, I could see that being an issue. But, speaking of going backwards, we're starting to see a revival of drive-in theaters. They're not showing new releases.
Yeah, they are. They showed Shia LaBeouf's movie.
Did they?
Yeah,
I didn't even know he had a new movie.
Yeah, David Ayer.
Oh, the one that Brendan Schwab's in for 5 seconds.
Yep.
Well, that's the only one. But I know that I've seen a lot of people posting like old, like 80s, like a lot of Back to the Future because it's its 30th anniversary.
Well, that's because they have those are like the cheap movies to get the rights to watch.
But I mean, I feel like that could be like the next thing, and not being the next thing, but like to get people out again, doing the drive-in thing once again, reopening some of these that are
which
still
is cool,
up, like that are swap meets now.
I think right. I think revival cinema is great. Whatever, but my issue isn't not the theatrical experience. The movies are going to exist regardless. I think there's just going to be less of them because there's going to be less movies.
Right.
If I'm Disney, and I now know how much, like, because Mulan's going to bring in the big bucks because there's no movies right now, right? Now that they know
I have
that's
seen a lot of people complaining about the $30 price tag on it. I've seen so many people on social media losing their minds about $30, and I'm thinking like, dude, you go to the theater, and unless you're going at matinee hours, you're spending $30 already on popcorn and a soda alone.
I just think of you, your wife, your kid. Obviously, I don't think he'd probably pay for his ticket, or if he wouldn't go. But let's just say theoretically, right? Now you guys could all watch the movie together for $30. You can watch it over however many times you want over the next few days. Pause it, go to the bath, like do what you need to do. The convenience. But that's kind of my point. It's like, if I'm Disney, what am I going to spend my money on for theatrical distribution? Huge movies only, like Marvel movies. And we watch every single one, but it's like, is that all I want to see?
Right.
I don't know. It's a weird time because so many independent movies are being made through Netflix right now as it is, and you can't see them on the theater.
Yeah.
So it's like,
we've already kind of changed. We've been on this path already to change how we consume movies, and this has kind of fast forwarded it. It sped it up already, to a certain extent. Because even like we've said before in the last podcast, which was 2 months ago or whenever, we talked about it. Like, if they do open up, like how safe are you going to feel going to one of these things? Like obviously we've seen already, you give people an inch, they'll take any, like, yeah, I'll go to the bar right now. I don't give a fuck if I get sick, but me personally, like, would I feel comfortable going? I went to was in June. I think I want to say it was in June. I went to the San Pedro Fish Market, and within 5 minutes, I felt like a fucking idiot. Like I was like so like
I was gonna say
nervous.
it depends on how many Mexicans there are at the theater.
And there was a lot, man. And I was uncomfortable. I was like not happy to be there, and I was like stressing myself out, to the point where we got home and I told my wife, I was like, dude, we're not that was maybe the dumbest thing we've done in
this
a long
whole
time. And I don't want to do that again. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what your mom says, or if you got family in town.
It wasn't worth it.
Not worth it. Not worth it at all. So just imagine, we're still.
Well,
let's just jump into the Rona, man. Let's just talk about the Rona and where we're at here in the United States, dude. We are fucked. The thing is not. My attitude has changed. I don't want to say I've jumped all the way to the other side, but I'm just in this state of limbo when it comes to it, because it's like the data is not supporting anything positive.
And it all depends on what you define as positive too, because the way I look at it is it's just a matter of we're in too deep now. Like it's over. It's infected the society, and not in regards to the virus itself. I mean the actual the effects of the virus on the economy, on all of it. Like
right.
It's over. Because again, I'm gonna be the one that probably sounds bad, but maybe you agree. The numbers aren't there. The numbers aren't there for you to genuinely be afraid of anything right now, in my opinion, because they're worse than they were at the beginning, but we're not locked down now, right? But I say that to say the governments are being super inconsistent, right? So
right.
That's just, and the economy's already fucked because of the first time. So it's like, well, I took you really serious at the beginning, really serious, and now I'm still taking you serious because I don't have anything else. Like literally my job is gone. No one's calling. I've reached out to people, and maybe one or two like was willing to like work under, illegally, quote unquote. But that's the other thing too. Just just to go back for 1 second, productions are more expensive. I was just listening to Steven Soderbergh talk he was doing a USC lecture, and he was talking about how production costs are going to go up because now you have to have a COVID supervisor, you have to have a COVID this, a COVID that. So like just to even make a movie, you got to, pay even more people to be there for it to be union, to work with certain. So it's just everything's ballooning out of control. But in terms of the government, I just think like I don't know. It always makes me think if we didn't stop, it could have went to disaster mode real quick. Right?
Yeah.
It could have spread all over. Just real bad, because I think it was important we locked down. But now the economy is suffering bad, right? That's why Trump even considered to do the executive order, regardless if it does anything, which I don't think it does, but he still had to do that.
Yeah.
Him as the Republican president. So like that just shows you how bad it is. I don't know.
Well, yeah, shit's fucked up. And here's
and then the kids, school's opening, it's wintertime now, like that's when things are really gonna start supposedly getting bad.
And that's the funny part too, is like how inconsistent it is from state to state. Like it seems like the states that have like are the hot spots right now are the ones that are opening the schools back up as well. And we haven't seen any like crazy issues with children, but
they're definitely hearing about them.
Yeah,
I've heard. I'm not on social media, but I still hear about it. People talking about it. Like I heard about that kid who got suspended for sharing a picture of like no one social distancing in school, which I don't see how you would enforce that anyway.
Right.
Like, I don't know how many kids you had in your high school, but I almost had like 4,000 on the campus at once.
I had 5,000 at mine. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I just wouldn't imagine like how do you even do that?
Right.
The campus is already crowded as it was.
And go with the younger kids. I just imagine what the younger kids are going to be doing. I can't get my son to keep his mask on for more than 30 seconds at a time.
Right.
And he'll keep it on. And he'll be like, and then immediately pull it down so his nose is exposed, and then slowly but surely it's down to his chin, and then like, hey, put it back. Oh, okay. And the same thing just creeps back down.
Are you sure your son's not Mexican?
Yeah, he's Guatemalan. Might as well be. He's half Guatemalan.
Because that's my favorite. I told you that Dodgers coach who took his mask down to cough,
sneeze,
yeah, whatever it was, and then he put it back on.
Yeah, dude,
on camera.
Look, we're not socially conditioned to wear these things. It's funny. It's funny, but I mean more. I was gonna say I'm more concerned about other countries. Like, we were hearing about New Zealand having it locked down for 3 months, where they did not have an infection. They did not have infection for 100 days, and now I guess a couple days ago, boom, 4 infections, and they don't know where it came from because they haven't been letting people onto the island, or maybe they have. Like, I need to see more details, but it's like
I'm sure some people are slipping through.
I mean, but it's an island.
But see, my thing is it's 4. What's 4? I mean, 4 makes 8. 8 makes 16. So on.
Well, it started at 4 and it went up to 13.
I know, but for me, that's why I said at the beginning, the numbers are not low enough.
They're high enough.
High enough? Excuse me. They are low. They're not high enough. Doesn't invalidate everything, but because it just makes me a hypocrite. Like I'm the same one. I say school shootings aren't that big of a deal. They're a big deal for the people involved, and if you have kids who are going to school at that age. But the reality is, I think most people know that they can send their kid to school knowing they're not going to end up getting shot.
I mean,
that's how I look at it.
It's pretty easy to avoid a school shooting. You just go to a school where there's no white people or very little white people, and you're like 99.99999% fucking safe. Okay, let's not make any bones about it. That's why people feel safe. They're like, oh shit,
Like, you might get shot. You might get shot in the hood, but it ain't going to be a school shooting.
No, somebody's going to steal my car maybe. Someone might break into my house. But you know what? My kid's not going to get shot at school because the gangsters have enough respect for the school.
Yep.
Just
enough.
And the angry-ass kid that would shoot up the school is out shooting other gangs. So we don't have to worry about that. But...
not to invalidate things, because people who have it, they're really sick. People have died. They've really died. It's not like it's a fake thing. I just think that it could spread out of control at any moment. I just wish that people would social distance and wear their masks. Like, I love Ireland. I like it, but I don't like it at the same time. But I like that Ireland made it, like, it's a mandate. It's a law now. If you don't wear your mask, it's like, I think it was like 350 pounds or whatever their currency is in Ireland.
Euro.
Yeah, Euro. That's. I mean, I just think, like, man, if we just had martial law for 2 weeks, what would have happened if we just paused everything for 2 weeks? What would have happened?
And by pausing everything, that includes you, Target, and Walmart, and Home Depot, and fucking
No, that means
Lowe's.
everything. That means the government says, okay, we are gonna take a $500 billion or a $1 trillion, like, whatever package, but that package is going to be to make sure everyone eats steaks for the next 2 weeks or something, like
right.
Free Netflix for the next 2 weeks, so we know we can make it as incentivized to stay home as possible.
You get a notice of some sort. They ask you how many people live in your house. They ask you how old they are, and they ask you how much they weigh, because those fat motherfuckers need to go on a diet, so they actually get less food than everybody else.
But it's just literally, I'm serious, like something like that, like it sounds communist or social fascist, whatever, but I mean, literally,
and that's the problem.
And the National Guard, I know it is the problem, but that's what would have solved it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look,
they just didn't handle it like North Korea and just
look. Well, like, even like South Korea, even like
North
Japan,
Korea, just shoot you.
Yeah.
He has the virus. Pop.
Well, I mean, wearing a mask should have been from jump, and that was always like contradictory statements from Fauci and everybody else about it.
From everybody, because it's not
even
in
though
our culture.
It's the rest of the world, like, it's this American pride that we're the fucking best and we're number one, and we are number one in COVID-19 infections.
Yeah. It's like Trump said something about, like, did you hear him pull his Ricky Bobby line, like, we're first. I mean, we're last. That means we're first, or something like that.
Oh, man. Well, you brought up Trump, so I guess we jump into politics. But, what have we found out now? We found out that Joe Biden made the worst possible decision. I mean, Biden himself was a bad decision, but decided to play the race card and make...
I think it's going to be a good thing.
Kamala Harris his
I've been thinking about it the
as
last
VP.
48 hours.
Kamala the Cop, as she's known in much of California. For those who aren't familiar, Kamala Harris was really deeply, balls deep involved in arresting people of color in the state of California from misdemeanors.
And if I'm not mistaken, she was also the one who wanted to put your parents in jail.
Yes.
If your student go to school.
She wanted to create a truancy law where if your child didn't go to school, that the parent would get locked up for them not going to school, not taking into consideration
ditching.
Well, not just ditching, but a lot of these, you got single moms that work in multiple jobs. You don't have like daycare
an
to
hour or
kids.
two away.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to maybe they live in a bad neighborhood too, where you can't helicopter your kid as much as you want to. And obviously to survive, some people really can't do that. So
you can, but it's not the government's place to enforce it.
Right.
It's not my job to tell you how to raise your kid.
Well, it's definitely not definitely not the government's job to lock people up if their kids aren't going to school.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Because school is just daycare until you're 18, really.
Right. Oh, absolutely. It's taxpayer daycare unless you go to private school. But yeah, man, you sent me a text message and you were like, "I'm out" immediately. While our friend Aaron Dowell, he's all excited, all about
Finally.
it. Yeah.
Finally, it's happened. Aaron's actually someone I'd want to talk to about. We should have him on maybe when I get back from my trip. But it's just this month up until the announcement, I'm like, you know what, Biden. I think Trump's not going to get reelected. And this is me who's been saying Trump's going to get reelected since he got elected the first time. I just because of everything with George Floyd and the amount of things that have been happening in the country is just crazy with the virus.
I mean, this last year of his first term has been a fucking complete disaster.
It has been. It's erased everything that he was saying was good.
Exactly. This is arguably. It's got to. I mean, I'm no historian when it comes to presidential terms, but this is probably up there as one of the worst years ever in the term of a presidency. And a lot of it's his fault. A lot of it is on him. Maybe not for the decisions he's made, but for the people he surrounded himself with that have advised him. Because what it comes down to more than anything is your presidency is only as strong as your cabinet. And I mean, aside from him firing everybody every 5 seconds, some of the people that he's kept around have been pretty shitty. It's been a lot of shitty stuff, and now it's all these eggs are hatching or whatever. The chickens have come home to roost, as they like to say.
They're because it's just everything's been exposed. That's why I told you my theory is the reason why July was the cutoff for this extra payment, the unemployment stuff, is because I really believe the Republicans saw that this was an issue, genuinely. Maybe not that there was going to be 500 million deaths, that it was going to be Spanish flu 2.0, but that this was going to generate enough concern in the people. Because I mean, just remember the things that were coming out of Italy and all those.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I mean, the government shut down. They shut down Disneyland. It says it all, really. I think they thought, okay, we can. It's the projections are if we manage everything by July, it'll fizzle out at summertime. And I really think that was a valid call. I really do. I do think it was a smart play on the Republicans' part, because I think if everyone just would have wore their masks and would have social distanced and would have stayed home and not went to Hampton parties and doing all the other things that people do to just make this worse, right? It would have went away. And then they would have came out scotch-free. Trump would have looked like a genius. Boom, secured the re-election, in my opinion. And then what happened? Well, no one wore the mask. Trump didn't take it serious. He didn't start wearing a mask until a week before this July deadline or whatever. It was a big deal. Everyone wear their mask, and now all the stores say wear your mask. Everyone's saying wear their mask now all of a sudden, after this deadline happened.
Yeah.
Because now they have to. Now they're like, oh shit, all of the bad that's been happening over the few months. Like you said, chickens are gonna come home to roost. Now it's all coming out. It's just they played and now the Dems look like they're the smart ones, because even though they're getting painted in the wrong light for holding everything up, but it's kind of like, well, now we're playing the game. This is just the new game now. Like the game's evolved.
The Dems are the smart ones, except when it comes to the presidency, where I could see like the entire House, and I mean they already have control of the House, but like taking control of the Senate and all the smaller positions, like a lot of the other politicians, but Trump will stay in the presidency because people
I really
just
don't think he will. I think the economy's that bad.
You think Biden's going to win then?
I do.
Okay.
I think the Kamala Harris definitely. Let me put it to you this way. I was thinking it's okay. This is how I've been feeling the last week. I feel like because of COVID scared people to go back to their party lines a little bit. Because I have to think, okay, this country's not doing well. You know, no. I might be fine right now in this current, but who's to say when employment will be genuinely consistent? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For film, so I got to really hedge my bets of like, who do I want to be the leader for the next 4 years for this recovery process?
Right.
Do I want more of the same Trump, which works when the economy's doing well, or do I want?
I mean, it works.
I didn't use the quotes, but yeah. What I'm saying though, it gets by because the economy's doing well.
Yeah.
It just things they flow because the economy's doing well. But now that it's not, you know, do I want a Democrat to be in charge during the rebuilding process or whatever? Like that's where my headspace is. But then I see Kamala and I'm just like, it just reminds me of, it's just I don't like this party anymore. Like not when you had. During the debates, they were calling, you know, Kamala was calling Biden a racist or whatever she was doing. Maybe she didn't say that explicitly, but she was insinuating that he needed to apologize for saying certain things, blah, blah, blah. And now they're like, buddy, I'm sure. You know, that's the stuff that annoys me. When in 2020, this was the year of Bernie, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the same old partisan bullshit that happened. I think, like...
I think that's why Kamala Harris dropped out first. I bet you she was in the running from the beginning. I bet you they were like, just get out now. Biden wants you as the VP.
I mean, I think she also dropped out because Tulsi fucking...
nuked her.
Like, yeah. Like, she just straight killed her. And I think it's been long enough where people have forgotten. Well, the people that were already... I don't even know if it's people that have forgotten. I think it's more along the lines of if you're a Democrat, you were going to vote Democrat regardless.
I was going to say, yeah, that's what it is. The people who've forgotten haven't forgotten, and it made it work. It solidified where I'm at. Like, I'm not going to vote. I'm just not voting, which is what I was saying before. But now, like, I was thinking about voting for Biden just because of, you know, who do I want for the next 4 years? But now I just don't want to vote or vote for Bernie.
And in a way, ultimately, in the long run, that could actually affect the elections as well.
I mean, I'm going to vote for Senate. Like, I want to keep it blue. I think that's the most important thing. Just because, you know, I mean, Kamala Harris. I mean, I read a statement. She's open for student loan forgiveness. So it's like, you know,
it's the little things.
It's true though. Like that matters to me. That's a big deal. If I don't have to repay those loans, because Trump already extended that till December, the end of the year. You know.
Yeah.
And if Biden's like, all right, let's just forgive it all. That might be something to get my vote.
Funny. Speaking of student loans, I paid off all my major debts except for my student loans, and then I was going to pay off my student loan until I look at my credit report, and it's like, I just learned at my old ass age that apparently if you have less than 5 things of credit open, it's actually negative for your credit. So
yeah, you want to keep your credit line. You have to be responsibly in debt. That's the way you maintain a good credit score.
It's fucking stupid. I mean, I guess I could pay off the student loans and then just get 5 credit cards, but you know,
I don't have 5 credit cards, but I have a 850 credit score.
850.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
According to Discover.
I mean, but you got a PayPal account and you got...
Just 3. I only have 3 credit cards. I don't have 5.
Well, but your student loans aren't one big loan. It's like split between 3.
Yeah.
On your credit report, it shows up as like 3 or 4 creditors.
But either way, I mean, what's your opinion on Kamala? That's why you brought it up. I'm
I
personally
just
not
know.
a fan.
Look, I know a
She's
lot
a
of
good
black
talker
people.
though. She's a good talker though.
Good,
In terms of fast, like for a debate, for a speech, for like.
unless it's Tulsi Gabbard. Uh,
I know she's daddy. She's her daddy for sure.
I I know a lot of black people in the state of California who are not happy about that at all. Like they're not like cheering it. There's no like race Olympics like Chappelle show or whatever. Like she's not in the racial draft.
The draft.
Yeah, a lot of black people and like other just people of color in general. Just people. If you're a person of color in the state of California, or really anywhere, but mostly in the state of California, the chances of you knowing somebody that went to jail or prison on something stupid is pretty fucking high. And like,
At least
somebody's
6 degrees of separation.
yeah, exactly. And it's always like it's like how many people do I know that killed somebody? How many people do I know that like
I mean, I don't know
like
anybody who's done that.
that's my point. That's what I'm getting at. That I don't know anybody that's killed anybody. I don't know too many like legitimate felons that did something where like if they told me they went to prison, I'd be like, "Oh fuck." Most of the time it's like off the top of my head, it's just shit that it's usually drug related or and because of drugs.
And minor
Yeah,
drug.
yeah, exactly. Or I mean, maybe the worst. There was somebody like I had a friend who broke into somebody's house, because he was a fucking dope fiend trying to fucking.
And that's what happens. Yeah. You do stupid
but,
stuff when you're under the influence.
Yeah, but I can tell you that I know anybody that's done something like really like gruesome, that that you're like, I don't know if I want
violent
this guy
crimes.
around.
No, I get
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
And I think a lot of us out there in the community, like we know people that have gone to jail, or we know somebody who knows somebody. Like I said, so knowing that, when she was when she was attorney general, a lot of people in our circles were locked up. It's hard to get behind that, especially because it's like, did you change as a person?
Well,
that short amount of time,
because she got nuked about it and she didn't have a good response to it. But
Yeah.
my question to you is this though, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but who would have been his alternative? I think for his field, it was a pretty smart choice.
You think so? You see,
Who else?
I think they picked her because she checked boxes. She's a woman and she's a woman of color. She checked 2 boxes. Boom.
She's
That's
young
why she got.
too. She's young.
Okay, but I mean, I feel like there was a laundry list of people. Like some of the people that were doing better during the
Yeah, but it would have been 2 old white people.
No, I wouldn't say like Bernie.
I think no, like her and like Klobuchar, the older white lady, who I thought was going to be the original pairing. That she's like the governor of Minnesota or whatever she is. I forget off the top of my head.
I feel like you also got to take into account that fucking brown people and black people hate themselves.
Well, the thing that
you know what I mean. So they would have been on board with another white person.
I mean, I think these are all factors, but at the end of the day, my big picture is the biggest thing that bothers me about it is this, and I wouldn't say bothers, but I'm going to just use the word for a second. Biden could very well die in the White House.
Right.
And that could literally be a reason why Kamala was chosen, because she's younger, whatever. She could be the first black female president, like shoehorned in by virtue of the process. I think it's important. I can see why that Aaron's argument, I don't know what his argument is, but if it were something along those lines where like it's the step in the right direction, that type of thing.
Well,
the problem is it's just her. Like
right. Well,
it's like Hillary. It's like I don't have a problem with the women being president. It's just her.
Well, let's put a pin in that and save that for when he comes on. Hopefully, maybe
he can explain
the
it
next couple
better.
of weeks, and he could talk. Because I will say he definitely seems like he knows more about the politics than I do. Like I just get so frustrated that I'm just like, okay, I'm done reading this shit. I'm over it.
That's where I've been.
Keep living my life. But let's move on to professional sports in this COVID-19 world, man. I think so far. And I've talked about
UFC's the king. UFC's number one.
is definitely killing it. I mean, even though like a lot of their like opening fighters are like dudes they pulled up off the street.
Don't matter. Still more entertaining.
Yeah.
I
think
haven't watched the basketball game. I've only watched baseball. I never watched hockey, so I never will watch that even during quarantine, COVID.
I think basketball's doing a good job too. They're a close second to UFC for sure. It's going to get real interesting.
I want to talk to you about that
starting.
for a second, just for 1 second. I don't want to harp too much on basketball. I actually think the only thing I see about basketball right now, I don't watch basketball, so that's probably why, but just on the news, like I subscribe to ESPN, so I know like everything's mostly tied to Black Lives Matter. About LeBron James said this, whatever. I'm hardly seeing any coverage of games.
That's
no
funny
standout moments.
That's funny that you say that, and you sound exactly like somebody that doesn't watch basketball. Like
I just said
that. Yeah. Well, and that's what I hear from Kat. That's what I hear from basically everybody that doesn't watch basketball. They say the same shit, and it's like, have you watched the games? Because the politics part of it.
But I didn't say that. I said the media representation. Like way I'm led to believe is I don't see any. If I read,
but what media
article,
representation? Because
ESPN.
I feel like. I don't know, man. I think
I'm gonna have to start sending
highlights. Like right now, this whole week, they've only been talking about Damian Lillard and how he's like.
I mean, it could be my algorithm, you know, that they're just feeding me articles like that. I'll admit that, but that's why I'm saying I'm not saying that's how it is. I'm asking because it's always everything I've always see is like the Hornets net, the Hornets court with Black Lives Matter on the court or whatever.
The biggest thing that I've seen is a lot of the players decided to have Black Lives Matter on the back of their jersey rather than their name. And then sometimes I forget that, and I'm like, what the fuck? Who's this guy?
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'll be like, you know, it'll be a Wyatt, and I'll be like, damn, that guy's got a long-ass last name. And then,
everyone has the same last name.
Yeah, like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it takes me a second because I forget, but, you know, I'm watching the game. I think that's what matters. And I think a lot of people just need to get over it. The people that,
it's not a problem, whatever, I don't care.
But the people that do have a problem, I feel like they just get over it.
I did read an article about the ratings are doing low, though, for television programming relating to NBA. ESPN wrote a whole article about their own programs that aren't doing well.
I mean,
like they're basketball specific, like, you know, pardon the interruption. I mean, that's not basketball specific, but they have shows about like those. They said those numbers are doing awful. They're just doing terrible.
And I could see that, and I think a lot of that also has to do with like.
And the big whatever there was a big Laker game or something. There was a big game recently, and it only pulled in like 1.3 million views. We're
conditioned to watch sports at a certain time of the year, and right now we'd be.
It is not basketball season.
It is not basketball season. We don't. The finals would be over already. It would have been done like at the beginning of July.
Yeah.
If that, at the latest. So I think that's part of it. Like baseball's back. I think people are taking more of an interest in baseball again because that's what they're used to at this time. The summer, they're called the boys of summer for a reason. Like right now, all we're watching is baseball, and then
fighting, boxing,
and fighting, and then like previews of the football season. So I don't know. Maybe it just shows that the NBA is just
getting excited for the NCAA drafts, things like that.
So I think college football. People right now would be going crazy with college football, and then we'll talk about that in a second. But I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it is the politics behind it, but I just feel like it's just
I'm not
weird.
saying I don't know. I'm just curious.
You know what the other problem is too is that they're not playing at the normal times. Like normally during the season, you play the first game's at 4:00. Well, because they had to cram so many games in, and they're all playing on the same facilities anyway. I think they only have like 4 courts. They're starting games at 10 in the morning. They're starting games at 11:30 in the morning. So people are at work and they're not watching a lot of these games. Obviously, the primetime game comes on, but I think because there's such an oversaturation of it, it's hard for people to kind of.
Which is ironic because there's not an oversaturation of sports.
No, but it's a timing thing. It's really I think it's a.
No, I know they gotta cram it all in. It's just like baseball.
But we'll see. The playoffs are going to start next week. That's when we need to pay attention because those are going to be on during prime time, and that might change things completely. So that we'll see if it's the product itself or if it's just
football's going to make it interesting. That's all. Football is really going to make this interesting. This whole because by the time football season start, when does football season start?
Football
season planning to start?
It's the Sunday the Thursday after Labor Day, so it's going to be like September 10th, September 11th. They got a lot.
So yeah, that's the big. So you're going to have a little bit of a layover with baseball in that, just for a little bit, and then it's gonna. But I mean, you already have like, I was gonna say John Jones, Jerry Jones. What's his name? Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones.
Fucking,
yeah.
Yeah.
He's trying to see if he can get people into the stands.
Yeah, we're not playing any games unless there's people in the stands. Like that's what he said, and it's like, well, you're in Texas, so he might be able to get away with it. That's just another political thing. That's just another powder keg. Because it's football, too. We're kind of where this all started. The whole kneeling, all this other stuff. Which everybody's doing now, you know. It's so funny how that's just come so full circle. How, I guess Kaepernick started it, right? And then he's sold out. He's a sellout now.
Now,
I mean, he's a sellout. He's a sellout. It's just, that is what it is. He should have just waited. If he would have just, I mean, imagine right now if he would have waited and didn't sell out. Like right now, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. A lot of people sold out in 2020. Let's just put it that way. I don't know what my point was though. I completely forgot. I decided to shit on him instead of making my point.
Yeah, you were talking about Jerry Jones and trying to get people in the
and then you have Dana White, who's like super on the right. I think, you know, I'm not saying an right wing alt right, but he's like, I'm not even thinking about people in the stands. We don't even care about people in the stands right now because that's not where the world is at. No, like that's not where our sport's at.
He's making his money. That's why they're making their money and they're taking over. We've talked about it. The UFC, mixed martial arts, is taking over sports right now because it was the only live sport on for months.
Okay, would you say that it is now more popular than boxing? It's overtaken boxing?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because boxing is barely on ESPN. And I know a bunch of fights have been happening. I haven't.
And name me one of them.
Watching shit. Exactly. You know, it's just not.
Bro, I only know let me put it to you this way. I only know that there's boxing, like top ranked boxing, because I see the previews while watching UFC.
Right.
And they're like, it's right after this. And I'm like, off. Yeah. Turn it off. Because it's like, what? No one, it's true. No one can argue. Most of the fights suck anyways for prelims and boxing. That's, you know, usually there's only one good fight. Usually you're tuned in for the one main fight. You know, you don't even know half the boxers on the roster.
Yeah, but a lot of the opening card fights are basically an up and coming fighter getting fed a tomato can so they could pad their record. Exactly. Because the records in boxing are so.
And we all know that. And so it's like boring. It's boring. Like it's interesting. Like, do you want to watch the Mike Tyson fight?
No.
You're not gonna watch it? Well, I didn't say pay for it. I'm just. Do you want to watch it?
I mean, no. I'm really not interested in watching a 55-year-old man fight a 50-year-old man. Like.
That sounds fun to me. I mean, I watched Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz fight,
and it was awful. It was terrible.
I felt bad for supporting it. I'm like, man, I shouldn't have been here on this one.
Yeah, like I'm not. Yeah.
What about Canelo? I don't even know who.
I'm like wondering. Like, I don't even think Tyson needs the money, or maybe he does. But you know, it's weird.
He says he wanted his. He says he wants to start a league. I think that's what this is trying to be. I think it's like his investors probably were like, look, if you Michael Jordan this, it might turn into something. We're like with the Wizards, you know, where he wasn't he a part of the ownership or something like that.
He was part of the Bobcats, but I think he became a general manager of the Wizards. I'm not
sure. I thought his involvement by playing for the Wizards was because he was going to get ownership or something like that. Like he was a player manager or something.
Yeah, it was something like that. Like he was definitely involved in the.
He didn't just play for the Wizards because they offered him more.
No, it had to do with personnel and stuff. He was definitely
like a lot something. That's what I think that was a Tyson, because his whole thing is like legends only league or something.
He drafted Kwame Brown and made him cry at practice by calling him a pejorative term for homosexual men.
Oh, I don't know what word that is. I don't want to know. It sounds bad.
The other F word.
Yeah. Freak.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly what he called.
But yeah, he wants to start his own league, like his own fight league. So that's his whole thing. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
I mean,
maybe you can overtake boxing. I don't know. There's just nothing happening exciting in boxing. I mean, we were spoiled with Deontay Wilder. That was a good start to 2020. That was a good fight, like of him getting dominated, by Tyson Fury, and then that's it. You have Oscar crying about Oscar was like crying about Tyson fighting on Mexican Independence Day, and I'm in my mind I'm like,
so Floyd Mayweather has been doing it every year for the last 15 years.
And name me one Canelo fight that's going to be interesting right now.
I mean, like Billy Joe Saunders, he's got issues going on right now, but there's a few fights for Canelo.
Isn't that who he's fighting though?
I think that might be his name. I mean, that's how disconnected with boxing I am. Like, I don't even know.
But I'm just saying, over the years that we've been talking about Canelo, the last 4 or 5 years, you might say, oh, he needs to fight this guy or whatever, and then that doesn't come to fruition. But it's just like, who's he fight now? He's beat everybody. People like you still don't respect him. But
no,
so it's like
not.
what?
I think
so it's like what? So it's like what does he have left? Like who does he fight?
Who knows, man?
They just need to. They're just trying to keep him in the ring long enough for like someone to come knock him out to take his place.
They're just trying to milk that name for as long as they can, and I don't know. I think there's some. The problem with boxing is there's just so many politics and the different associations and conferences and whatever, and just the corruption, the overall corruption, and there's no.
The problem with boxing is boxing.
Well,
No,
see
I'm
that to this day, I still think a great boxing match is better than any mixed martial arts match you'd ever watch. A really good boxing match, action-packed boxing match is better.
I would agree, but here's the thing, though. Here's my disagreement, or not disagreement, but here's my sidebar to that. The amount of times in which a great boxing match happens, that stretch of time is literally up in the air. You never know. Because you can have a Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder 1, which was a boring ass fight until the very last second. Literally, that fight was boring. The second one was better because he was just pure dominating, right? But then it's like, okay, in the last 5 years, can you name me like 5 fights that were good? That were that good?
No.
Like this is the all time. This is going down. Is the whatever.
No, but to be fair, I also haven't been watching boxing as much other than the big fights. So,
but could you even think of any 5 big ones that people have talked about?
As a boxing fan, I mean, a lot of the Manny Pacquiao fights were exciting. That was 10 years ago, but
see,
yeah, no, I was building my way towards it.
Like I watched him beat up, what's his name? Thurman? Was it Thurman?
Keith Thurman, yeah.
Yeah, he dropped him in the... Like, I watched that fight, and he won. And then but before that, I watched him lose to the Australian dude. Like...
Right.
Is that Billy Joe? Is that who he lost to? Who did he lose to?
I know, I can't remember his name, but I know he's fighting soon. He's actually fighting Kostya Tszyu.
And it was like, that was a fight that... I'm like, that's the other thing about boxing, too. I'm like, man, he won that fight. Nope. Terrible judges. So that's the other thing too. But that's UFC problem. That's just judging problems. I don't know. I just think that boxing is in a bad spot. I don't think that they have that power anymore. Especially Dana White's still trying to do his boxing promotion.
It's I think
with Floyd too. With Floyd.
Now that's where I'm going to agree with you. I think the house is much more important in a boxing match than in a mixed martial arts match, because it just seems like it's such a... Whenever a huge boxing event happens, like the crowd, it's an event. It's a whole weekend thing where people are coming from all over the country, sometimes all over the world.
Yeah, when I saw Canelo, that's what it was like.
Yeah, and I mean, MMA pay-per-views have never been that way. So they've been able to adjust. And also, I think what UFC has going for them is they had the Ultimate Fighter for so many years, so they're used to having... Like, we're used to watching these fights with no audience. Yeah.
Well, now they have the Contender Series, it's been the same thing. Like, that's been going on, no audience either.
Right.
But like the Ultimate Fighter, you're introduced to new talent. Like the Sean O'Malley guy, that's where he came from.
Yeah.
I mean, he blew up because of Snoop Dogg. Because they had that Snoop cast where he did commentary, and he forgot what he called them, like that. But it was hilarious. Like, Snoop's hilarious doing UFC commentary. It should just be him in DC.
That'd be awesome. That'd be exciting.
Just him in DC.
Just cut Joe Rogan out of the
mix. That's what it was. Him and Uriah Faber, and they were just smoking weed the whole time. Like that was their like commentary.
It feels like you're like hanging out at somebody's house, and one guy knows a little bit more than everybody else, but he's also fucked up, so he's like kind of talking out the side of his neck.
And he just lets
times.
Snoop Dogg just act a fool, like he doesn't even know what he's talking about. Put him in that choke his ass out. Like he was literally doing stuff like that. That's what it was. Choke his ass out. I don't know what kind of choke that is, but shit, man, I don't want that on me. Like that's just the whole time for 3 hours.
It was like UFC World Star.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
What about baseball, man? What? How do you?
I think a lot of free MLB TV with T-Mobile. They gave it a free subscription for the rest of the year. Nice. And because I have a VPN, I'm able to actually watch the Dodgers play.
Right.
My hometown team. And you know, the whole league's weird right now. Everything's weird. Because my gut feeling is they're gonna like this shorter season, and they might adjust future things to it, which is kind of like movies. It kind of takes away, like maybe not 163 games. You know, maybe you can make a shorter season, but it's just I don't know. Some of the rules they like the whole after the 9th inning or whatever, the 10th inning, they add the second runner. They add a runner on second. Like those are fundamentally weird changes that to me.
I think they
make the game. They make the game more exciting, and not last as long. But like I kind of like 23 inning games because they're rare.
I think they're using this season as a test run for stuff like that. I don't think they're going to be able to contract the season to 65 or even 100 games.
Oh no, it's too quick. You can already feel like it's too quick right now.
Well, it's also because of the salaries. Because then you're going to have to like the owners will be losing way too much money.
$10 million for one game for one player.
Exactly. So I think we're going to see once. I mean, hopefully by next year they kind of figure out a way to. Hopefully it's contained here, where everything kind of goes back to semi-normal. I mean, semi-normal in the sense of public outings and stuff, but getting the public to go to those public outings is another issue in itself. But it's funny. Baseball was catching a lot of heat because the Marlins and then the Cardinals had guys that went out and partied and they came back positive. But since those two incidences, I think everyone's kind of taken it serious and they haven't had any issues since. Like everyone now realizes like, hey, you know what? Maybe we're not invincible. Maybe we can't go mess around. And it bothers me. And I
bet you they're not getting paid too. I bet you that was the main thing. Like I bet you all the time off, they're probably not getting paid right now.
I'm sure.
There's some contract stipulations.
I would have that in there. Like if you contract COVID-19 because of extracurricular activities, if
you get it at the stadium, that's one thing. But if you get it, that's
right.
Yeah.
And they know. Like I know the Marlins got it because they were out partying on South Beach, and then the Cardinals got it because they went to like an Indian casino or something.
I just don't. I'm more annoyed, honestly, not with that. Like that's gonna be a part of anything. I feel like not so much in the UFC. I feel like I really do feel like they clammed because they made it that way though. You got to go to Fight Island. You have to stay in this little facility.
Yeah.
You have to do these things. Like they did it right, but I don't like these suspensions. They're so arbitrary and. Like when Joe Kelly, Dodgers pitcher, he got suspended 8 games because he went, and then and then Alex Cora or whoever it was, Correa, whatever, spit on him and they charged him, and then he didn't get suspended any games, and like, it's supposed to be tough, and then there was the fight in Oakland. I don't know if you saw the fight in Oakland.
Yeah, with Laureano
and the Astros, and like. No one even got only one person got suspended. The hitting coach got suspended 20 games or something.
Yeah.
And it's there's so many people involved in that. It's so inconsistent. And I've been mad at the MLB for a while actually the last 2 years, just because. And Joe Kelly said it on his podcast. Apparently, I read an article about it. How he said, it's bullshit that the managers are the ones getting all the brunt of it. The players got to be snitches. They got to snitch on everything, say everything, and get their immunity, and then they're kind of getting unfair treatment right now, but in a way that's beneficial to them.
Right.
Why? It's stupid. It's just annoying. I don't understand.
To get protected by the league.
For what? For what? They should be condemning. They should really be condemning them for cheating. If I'm not saying it's. To me, there's very little difference between throwing the World Series like the Black Sox and then cheating in the way they did. To me, it's very the line is there is a line. It's not the same thing, but it's very I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But to
Well, you
me,
want to know,
cheating
you
is
want to know,
cheating.
you want to know what the real reason behind it all is, right?
Uh, Money? I have
The
no
real
idea.
reason, the real reason why they've kind of let sleeping dogs lie is because the
People been doing
Astros
that
getting
forever.
exactly because the Astros getting popped probably just exposed how many like every team is doing something like that in one way or another. And it was like, okay, well we can either hammer the Astros, make an example out of them, and then all of a sudden everybody else starts talking out about the shit the other teams are doing, and then the whole league looks like shit. Or they're just like, okay, well we're gonna do this to the Astros, make them look like the bad guys all year, shut the fuck up, and then people will forget about it
I
in a
mean, it's
year or two.
COVID is great for that
Yeah,
aspect. But the players are not. That's the thing now. Players are talking out. And
yeah,
now with the internet, it's things don't go away as quickly. That's the reality. They just
right.
don't go away as quickly. They just stay around until whatever's until they become irrelevant. I guess. I
Yeah.
just think, but I've been watching some of the games. It's still hard to follow there's still too many games going on, even though it's like less. Well, because the
Yeah,
standings are all different. You look at a game and you're like, oh, they're only like a game and a half back, or whatever.
but then there's only
you
5 games left, so it's
exactly,
like,
and you realize like, oh wait, the season's just starting. Like, or not
yeah,
starting. It's like almost halfway done. Like almost, which is crazy to say. When your record's like 20-1 or 20-10, and you're like, no, the season's halfway done. What? That's just it doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense.
yeah.
Unless you're like the worst team in baseball to have 20 wins, by the halfway point of the season. That's terrible.
Right.
I don't know. Plus,
It's hard to process. It's just not. We're just not used to it. We're not used
plus
to it.
it's,
But
it's just not a real season either, because you can
I
get
mean,
on
but
a
it
real
wouldn't.
hot streak, and
It wouldn't. It
that's
wouldn't
not
be the
160
first time.
games.
No, it's not. But it wouldn't be the first time that we've had a season like this. Before it wasn't just like a pandemic related. It was strike related, like labor issue related. But there have been shortened seasons before.
Not this
So,
short,
not this short, but I think there was like 100
and
game
not
season
starting
a few
now
years ago.
either.
Definitely not. The starting point. It was like they started, then they had the freeze, and then they came back after like the All-Star game.
Well, because there's cool things that they're doing right now that I'm glad. Like they're not allowed to look at review footage. Right now, there's no footage review at all,
Right.
which I like. I actually think that's good. I
It's
kind of
not
like
bad at all.
the idea of a pitcher must pitch to 3 batters. It changes
Yeah.
the fundamentals of the game. It does.
How do you feel about the mandatory DH?
That I don't like, because I'm a big fan of both pitchers should hit bat. I don't think there should be a DH rule at all, to be honest. I don't. I think growing up in Little League, you hit. They teach
Right.
you pitchers hit. They teach you that pitchers are a part. Like they might suck. They might be an easy out, but that's where the game comes in. That's where you bunt.
Right.
That's where you like.
There's more strategy for sure, having that weak hitter at the end of the lineup.
And that's the thing too. Like, okay, it's such and such pitcher is the first batter, and we're down by 1. Do I take him out early? Like, it makes the game
Yeah.
more involved. DH is just easy. DH is an excuse to extend careers, I think. Like,
Well, there's more offense involved as well.
like David
that's it,
Ortiz
where-
probably David Ortiz probably could still be playing right now if he wanted to. As the
if he didn't
DH.
get stabbed and shot.
Oh, I know. But that's neither here nor there. But you know what I mean, though. You get my point.
No.
He could literally be playing right now because that swing ain't going anywhere.
He definitely extended his career at least 5-6 years, But and also it creates jobs for people who just are terrible fielders, but they can swing the bat.
And it lets
So-
pitchers pitch, whatever. Like, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Not everyone's Barry Bonds, Barry Bonds could have he could have signed an American League team. He could have played on the Yankees and just DH'd until he was 50.
Until his fucking hips completely blew out.
For reals. He
Yeah.
still played until he was, 45, something like that?
I think he was 43 or 44 is when he finally.
I mean, he'd come in just for, like, whatever, but still. He's still playing. So
He was a part-time player. I think 2007 was his last season. He was like definitely platooning at that point. I think he still.
I'm
hit,
just
like,
saying, though,
15
not
home runs or
everyone's like that. I think
definitely not.
I think it's okay to play forever, but at the same time, I think it's accepted that you're going to get put to pasture after a certain time.
Absolutely.
Like,
They'll take you out there. They're gonna shoot you. They're gonna turn you into glue.
Like the people are talking about Rich Hill and he got injured or he's on the 10-day DL or whatever they call it. Oh yeah, it's not even the DL anymore. It's not the disabled list because that's offensive. It's like the injured reserve or something. I don't know if you knew that. They changed that.
I didn't know that.
It's not the DL because
I don't want to go down
offensive.
that. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole with this podcast. We'll save that for another one.
I'm not even critiquing. I'm just letting you know. But yeah, and it's like he's 40.
No, I believe you.
It's like, what do you want him to do? He's 40. Like he's gonna get injured. Like he was old when you signed a 3-year deal for $30 million. Like what? The Dodgers look like the smart ones for getting rid of him. You know, it's just people are. I don't know. That's all sports though. It's all sports. I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
Before we wrap this up, I want to. What do you think about the whole college football thing right now? So far, the Big Ten.
Okay,
you
need to explain it to me because I'm kind of confused. Because when I read the headline, I thought, oh, that means college football season's over. But then I realized, oh wait, there's so many conferences, so many teams, so many colleges. Like, what does that really mean though? I don't know. You got to explain.
Okay, so in college football, you have.
That's USC, right? Pac-12.
Yeah. Pac-12. So you have what is called the Power 5, which is the top 5 conferences whose games are just more important when it comes to the national scope of things. It's the Big 10, the Pac-12, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12. Those are the 5 conferences. And last week, the Big 10 and the Pac-12 both decided that they didn't say cancel, but postpone the season and potentially
spring, right?
play in the spring. Yeah. That right there. It could work, but that right there is kind of messed up the entire national picture for college football. So you have Ohio State was probably going to be the number 1 ranked team in the nation this season, and they're part of the Big Ten, so they're not going to be playing. But the Big 12 says that they're going to play regardless because I think at least 8 or maybe 6
all in
of the
Florida.
Well, no, the Big 12, 6 of the 10 teams are in Texas.
Oh, there you go. So
you got TCU, you got Baylor.
And they're all going to play
Texas
at Jerry
Tech.
Jones' stadium.
Yeah, which is what they should do. You got Texas Tech. Texas A&M is in the SEC. Oh, you got Texas. So 4 teams right there in the conference are in Texas, and then you got Kansas State, Kansas, Oklahoma, which are basically right there next to Texas. They're all pretty close to each other. And then the weird team in the Big 12 is West Virginia. Like geographically speaking, they don't make any sense compared to where the rest of the teams are from. But they said they're going to play. The SEC has said, as of right now, they're going to play. ACC, I haven't really heard too much about it, but they're in Florida, Georgia and whatnot as well, like
they're going to
Carolinas. College football is a religion in that part of the country.
I know. That's why they get all of the showtime. That's why even though USC could be better at whatever, such and such team from the South is going to be looked at better.
Right, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they actually make it. Like they're gonna try their best, but I wouldn't hold my breath because I feel like the Pac and the Big Ten saying it's gonna make things harder, especially if players start getting infected. But what I have been hearing from coaches,
let's be honest, it's gonna happen. Football is the one sport where I feel like it's so hard to contain football because there's so many goddamn people involved.
Well, it all comes down to this, man. And I think some of the coaches said it, and I agree with them. I think the players, the student athletes, would actually be safer on campus than they would at home with their parents or their families. Just because of the regimented lifestyle that they're forced to live.
Bro, they should just lock them up in the gym.
I mean, and that's what I said.
This whole football season.
That's kind of how
if you want to eat, you got to work out, and you can
That's how I kind of feel about it. Like, number one, most of these schools students aren't coming back to campus to most of these schools.
Let's be real, they're only there for football anyway.
They're only there
when they're in school, they're cheating off the other, smart students and, maybe not cheating, but special privileges.
I think you have more control over a college roster than you do over a pro roster because they're not getting paid. Because they're dependent on the food that you give them, because they're dependent on the housing that you give them. And if somebody steps out of line, you're like, okay, well, we're going to send you back to wherever you're from and go back with your family. So I feel like even though they're younger and they're more immature, they're definitely going to
I just meant football in general, like NFL football. I think that's when you're going to start to see the controversies about, can the NFL can they do this? Because you have how many people on the field for a football game? 50 plus per team?
You got on an active roster, game day roster is 45. You got 45 people on each side, so 90 people.
Not including coaches, or including
not
coaches?
including coaches,
Yeah,
not including
see?
coaches and trainers.
And then the referees.
But it's not.
like,
It's
camera
not about
crew,
the.
That's a lot of people.
It's not about the games. It's about what they do outside of the games. That's what
I'm
it really comes
saying.
down to.
This is my
Who
point.
has to do, and I don't know. I feel like the reason why it's starting to work now in baseball is because those guys that got that got infected,
They ain't getting paid.
Exactly. That's why. Like once you start dipping into people's paychecks,
And football's the sport you got to watch out for because they have no guarantees.
Exactly. So
They
if
don't
anything,
have no union like that.
if anything, they're probably going to behave themselves more than the baseball players, even just because they know, like, you know, this, I need this money. They only get paid. They have the shortest season out of any of the pro sports. They have the shortest season, so they have the least amount of paychecks as well. Like, I don't know, but I
There's
think
no
with
David Prices in football that are going to say, "Oh, I'll walk away from $12 million this year just to stay safe with my family."
because he already has his $150 million.
Yeah.
I honestly think that the college football, back to college football, I feel like you're actually doing your student athletes a disservice by canceling the season. Because I really think
the thing is,
I think you're more likely. I think you're more likely to get infected staying at home and having your cousins come over and hang out, or you sneaking out because you want to get away from your parents to go hang out at somebody's little basement party or backyard party that they're not supposed to be having, depending on where you live. Especially the Pac-12, where most of them live in LA, anyways.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, I think it actually goes a step further than that, because if you're a junior or a sophomore right now, let's say this is your year to shine, you know, you lose a year. It's not like the school you're next year you're gonna be a junior or a senior. It's not like you're magically gonna get an additional season. They don't do that. So literally that's, you know, if you're in prime time shape, you've been getting, you know, whatever that might be. Maybe you have a call already. Maybe the Raiders have been, you know, in contact with. I don't know if that's allowed, but let's just say whatever, and they've been scouting you. You know it, and this is your season to shine. It's just, I'd be more okay with it if it was in unity. But I don't think it's a fair decision to say, okay, well, these 12 teams, as the Big Ten, we're going to take these 10 teams out of the picture. Because then it's like, well, if the Big 12 or whoever's still going to play, and the NFL still has to have a draft.
There's people are still going to get drafted. It's just the guys that get affected are the lower level guys who had it this season to make themselves a name, to make money.
And who's to say? You know, it's not like every person drafted is a freshman phenom. And how many realistically, how many college draft picks that were that person turned into someone? Like, I think of that black guy who was convicted of he wasn't convicted, but he got accused of the rape stuff. Starts with an A, Augustus, or whatever his name is.
Accused of rape.
Yeah. He was a big football player. Big black dude. Went to a southern school. I don't know why I'm not... Johnny Manziel keeps popping in my head, and it's not him. But he's another one, too. He flamed out.
Yeah.
What's his name? Starts with an A. Augustus, something. I don't know.
I don't remember.
Well, that proves my point. But I'm saying Reggie Bush flamed out. Like, all these people flamed out. They don't really have big careers.
Definitely.
Not to say you can't have it, but not as the number one, like, big guy.
It's definitely a thing. Like, it's not a guarantee for sure. It is definitely not a guarantee. But I just think there's a lot of that stuff involved. But just back to the health in itself, I honestly believe, especially from knowing where most of these players come from, you know, they're not coming from like well-to-do families. They're not coming from even middle-class families. A lot of them are coming from low-income, poor neighborhoods. And you're trying to tell me that they're safer at home in those neighborhoods than they are on campus.
And the thing is, here's the thing: when some of these campuses aren't even, like my cousin, he just graduated high school. He's going to San Marcos University here in California, and they're not. He can't even go there. It's all home right now. So like he was supposed to live at the dorms on campus, have the whole student experience, all that stuff. He can't do that now. USC, I think all schools in California are like that too right now. They weren't like that, but I think the state mandated that they have to do that. Which means they could easily make the exception this year to house just student athletes.
Yeah.
and just say, okay, these dorms are reserved for students, but they're not going to be here anyway. You're not allowed to go to class like other than online anyway, so you guys can stay here. We're going to house you up for, I mean, what's the football season last anyway? 3-4 months tops.
About 3 months, yeah.
So it's like that's
It goes
one
from late
semester.
August. It goes from actually the football season always ends around Thanksgiving. So
They
it
could
starts
easily
late
do it.
August.
I mean, and that's the thing. My cousin's not getting charged less tuition either for not being able to
No.
go and live there.
Which is ridiculous.
So it's like that money's being spent. It's ridiculous.
It's yeah.
But that's the
crazy.
problem when you're not a professional, even though
Right.
you know what USC makes $6 billion a year or something like that from their football.
We don't even want to get started on what any of these programs make. You know, I mean, you know what? Colin Cowherd was saying the reason why they're not doing it has nothing to do with player safety. It has to do with how much money how much profit they're probably going to lose by having
by hosting and
putting
doing all
in
these things.
safety parameters and stuff like that. Yeah, not to mention that with college football as well, like the money they make has to be shared with the other sports as well. So like,
and most of those sports have been canceled already. That's the thing.
Right.
A lot of those sports have been canceled, just as it is, just the smaller ones.
So Title IX affects stuff too, but we'll see what happens.
I also just real quick, it also comes down to you know, how much are you willing to risk your school's reputation to?
Right.
Like,
yeah, there's definitely the public.
If you get 150, you know, maybe your students are irresponsible, or their kids, whatever, and you get that in the media. Oh, 59 outbreak, 59 students USC. Like that's also a thing, liability.
Yeah, it's not.
Which is why I
think
think film industry
well.
took so long.
Yeah.
Because it's only a matter of time before these cases start to happen. You know, such and such COVID case. I got COVID because I had to work here.
And I know that some smaller shoots, what they're doing is they're basically renting out a hotel and telling people like you shoot and you go back to your hotel room and that's it. Like they're not allowed to leave the hotel room, and that's how you that's why the NBA is working, because they created a bubble. Yep. And I'll send you an article too about how the NBA is not letting Instagram hoes go into the bubble.
They got to keep it locked down. You can't trust them hoes.
They really can't. I from jump, I was like, you know, if they want to keep these guys happy, they need to build they need to put
the Olympic Village with them in there already.
With hookers, yeah, just like this.
That they can't leave. They're the ones they can't leave.
They cannot leave. You got a whole fucking section of Disney World full of professionals. They're getting paid to service these players.
They just rebrand Fantasyland at Disney World as like red light district, and then there you go.
The only issue is the guys fighting over the girls, but that's another story. But anyways, my AirPods are about to die, so this is gonna fuck up the sound.
No, it's cool. It's a good point to wrap it up. It's a good time. It's good.
Yeah.
Good point to get back.
But it was good to be back. I had fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it, watching it or listening to it. We're definitely gonna get back on it. Sorry we've been gone away. Just life shit happens. And we will see you on the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe.